There should be no boundary to human endeavor. However bad life may seem, while there is life, there is hope.
Thank you.
It almost felt like a sort of investigation into love and love in every sense, in every guise, whether it was young love and passionate love, but also love of subject matter, love of family, and then the limitations, the boundaries of love. I found it just completely eye-opening. For someone that I went to Cambridge, I'd seen Stephen across the campus, I knew his voice, I knew that he had done stuff to do with black holes, but I had no idea that there was this extraordinary story behind.
It would have been easy to make this into like a kitchen sink drama and to make it grim and realistic in that sort of dogged way that you could have done. But our idea was to go the opposite direction, was to flood the film with light and to make it in a way to pick up on the mood of the characters who, despite all the things that happen to them, are really quite optimistic.
I loved sitting down and reading this film, and that it was a love story, essentially, and it's about this love surviving over 25 years. But also the film is asking broader philosophical questions about, you know, why are we here? What is the meaning of life? And I love the way it moved between this domestic relationship story and then these broader themes. And I like that straight away from reading the script.
So, if you reverse time, then the universe is getting smaller.
All right.
So, what if I reverse the process all the way back to see what happened at the beginning of time itself?
At the beginning of time itself?
Yes. So the universe getting smaller and smaller, getting denser and denser, hotter and hotter as we...
You mean wind back the clock?
Yeah, exactly, wind back the clock.
Wind back the clock.
Is that what you're doing? You're winding back the clock?
That is what I'm doing.
Well, keep winding. And you've got quite a long way to get back to the beginning of time. You've got a long way to go. Well, keep winding. Keep winding.
Really, on this film, I felt like I had to just educate myself on everything. So I went wherever I could, and I try, for my own sake, when I'm working, to make it three-dimensional, to try and just to keep myself enlivened. I have quite short attention spans. So, but otherwise, the most complicated side of it was working out. All the documentaries start coming out in the 80s when Stephen became more famous, but by that point, he's in the wheelchair. So what was complicated was finding out how he physically progressed into the wheelchair. And although there's stuff written about that, I had to go and look at photographs. And I would take those photographs to a specialist called Dr. Katie Seidel. And she, by looking at what the hands were doing, Stephen's hands were doing, or his feet, or would help work out what his specific physical decline may have been. Because with motor neuron disease, you have what are called upper neurons and lower neurons. And if your lower neurons stop working, there's a kind of softness and a wilting. And if your upper neurons stop working, there's this rigid quality. And MND is a combination of those two things, but which part of your body has which is completely unique to each patient. So by analysing the photos, we could try and work out what his specific decline would have been.
Eddie was spending time with people with motor neuron disease and studying Stephen's physicality, and he would bring details that we would then use in the film. Felicity did her own version of that with Jane and her research, and also we improvised in the film as well. The screenplay was very good, but at the same time there was scope for the actors to kind of elaborate, sometimes with dialogue, sometimes with physical actions, to enhance the screenplay, and I was very open to that.
The book is so detailed about her experience physically and emotionally, and I realised I'd have to start going to the gym in order to get the physical strength that Jane had. And Eddie Redmayne may look very light, but he's actually very heavy. And just the physical lifting of being the carer, but also the emotional side of that experience. I was constantly coming back to Jane's book. But what was important is that she is this woman who has this incredible capacity for love and has this strength and determination. But I was keen that she wasn't a saint. You know, she's also a woman who has a very strong sexual identity and also has a career that she's absolutely vehement about and rightly so. And she's someone who I wanted to show this complexity.
Are you going to talk about this or not?
Please, will you just go?
Is that what you want?
Yes, it is what I want, so please, if you care about me at all, then please just go.
I can't.
I have 2 years to live. I need to work.
I love you.
You've left her. That's a false conclusion.
I want us to be together for as long as we've got, and if that's not very long, well, then that's just how it is. It'll have to do.
You don't know what's coming. It'll affect everything.
When Stephen is diagnosed, Jane doesn't want to burden him with her pain and distress. So it's always, for him, she's giving a face of strength and determination, and we're going to get through this. And that was constantly throughout their relationship. She wanted to give him the best support she could, and that was about being quite selfless.
The innocence of their early time together was very important to the way the film was then going to unfold. To enjoy that, the charm of that, of people falling in love in this, in Cambridge, and all very innocent and like a fairy tale, knowing that a nightmare was going to come and descend upon these characters, inexorably in this story, a true story, of course. But it was important that the foundation was there, that you felt there was a genuine sort of reciprocal love between these two characters, because it was going to be tested in such difficult ways as their lives unfolded together.
Because we weren't shooting chronologically, it was important for me to be absolutely, and because it's a disease that once a muscle stops working, it doesn't start again. And quite often with film, you make a film and then in the edit, you can shift this scene to here and that one can go there. And James and I and Anthony, the writer, all wanted to be rigorous that with this film we couldn't do that, because you couldn't have Stephen sort of not moving here and then starting moving again there. And so I made this chart with each muscle and when it was stopping working, whether it was upper or lower neuron, whether it, what glasses he was wearing, which wheelchair he was in.
And then, of course, we have chapter 4, this black hole at the beginning of time. It's brilliant. Brilliant, Stephen. Superb. And therefore, all there is to say is well done. Or perhaps I should say, to be more precise, well done, Doctor.
Bravo, Stephen.
An extraordinary theory.
Thank you.
So what next?
Prove it. Prove with a single equation that time had a beginning. Wouldn't that be nice, Professor?
When you meet Stephen, the disease is entirely secondary to him. He has no interest in it. And I didn't want this to be in the way that he is someone that lives forward and passionately. I didn't want this to be a film about a physicality. And so what was important was to make the physicality so embedded that they are the character. They become conjoined with the character, and that by the time Felicity and I were playing together, we could just play.
My name is Stephen Hawking.
It's American.
Is that a problem?
They have an unsentimentality. That was really important to us, that we put that into the film. They're incredibly sharp-witted, always using humour to survive quite difficult situations. And there was no self-pity. It's for Stephen, it was very important. And Jane, with disability, often there can be prejudice and you can be patronised. And it was so important for them that they would just retain Stephen's character and dignity, and the illness was never important. She always saw Stephen. That was just, for both of them, the illness is the least interesting thing. There's far more interesting things they want to be thinking about.
However much research and however much you educate yourself, what's at the root of this story is human emotions of the indescribable things of love and family, and so ultimately you also end up bringing your own experience into that, and I think as you get older you just experience more, and I think that's probably no bad thing. You have to have empathy for a character in order to play them honestly, and that's quite an instinctive reaction when you read something. But you do become their advocate. You really. It takes a bit of time after filming. I remember both of us, taking a few months before we really let go of Jane and Stephen, and you become obsessive about that person, and there is you have a lot of care for them.